Let me tell you a story. When I was 36, I had it all. I had a great job, an apartment in Greenwich Village in New York City, and I had a beautiful, intelligent wife. I had a baby boy, just 9 months old. And if you'd met me then, I would have told you, sure, I was happy, but just a little bit too busy to talk about it. One morning, everything changed. On June 9th of that year, I was at my office. My wife Patty was walking to the subway to travel to work. My son Jack was with his babysitter. While she was waiting for the train, Patty fell off the platform and onto the tracks just as the number 9 train pulled into the station. The engineer slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. 3 subway cars rolled over Patty's body, crushing her spinal cord and paralyzing her from the waist down. For the rest of her life, she'd be in a wheelchair. Patty spent 2 months in the hospital learning to live again. Jack took his first steps in her hospital room, and I watched from the sidelines, frightened, sleepless, panicky. Soon, Patty was ready to come home again, ready to get on with her life, and she was determined to make the most of things. And she did. Working, mothering, spreading joy. She was an inspiration to everyone that she met. But I was still a mess. If this was God's idea of a lesson or a punishment, well, I wasn't interested. There couldn't be any explanation that I could ever accept. I was dazed and I was mad. What I needed to know was, what next? How do I deal with this dark and hopeless future, with the fact that everything that we'd had seemed to be lost? I searched for answers everywhere. I read books on philosophy and religion. I talked to ministers and monks, to surgeons and to shrinks, but nobody could show me the way out of this darkness. I couldn't find any meaning behind why this had happened. I had no idea what sort of life we could possibly face ahead. And despite all of my hard work and my faith in the rules of success, the universe had shown that it was arbitrary and ugly and unfair. It wasn't Patty's life that had been ruined. It was mine. And this inner battle raged on in my head for the next 2 years. Till one evening, and I don't really know why, I decided to teach myself to draw. In the past, sure, I'd doodled on spare scraps of paper, grotesque faces and spirals and grids and that sort of thing. But now I decided I had to draw something real, something in front of me. So I opened my medicine cabinet and I sat down with a sketchbook and a pen, and I just drew the contents, one shape at a time, jar by jar, bottle by bottle. I took my time, and then I found I was slowly zoning out. My mind went blank. My breathing slowed down. What was different wasn't just the drawing, but the seeing. Something about that experience was different from anything that I'd ever felt before, and I emerged feeling rinsed clean from within, in the moment, content. It was pure zen. This peace that I'd been looking so desperately for was right there, between the floss and the Q-tips. The next evening, I drew Patty while she sat on the couch out of her wheelchair, and I took my time again. I lingered over every curve and every angle, gliding around the contours and into the shadows, caressing what I drew with my eyes. And when I finally stopped to look at the page, I was amazed that I'd managed to create anything so beautiful. It was Patty. For the first time since the accident, I saw her as she was. The woman that I'd loved all those years, not some problem in a wheelchair that I could never figure out how to solve. I had found my love again. And I could see the world as it truly was. Not the shadowy, scary place in my head, but bright and beautiful and clear and full of hope. Drawing was like a superpower. So I kept going. I carried my sketchbook everywhere. No matter what I looked at in this new way, I saw beauty and I felt love. It didn't matter what I drew: garbage cans and taxis and pigeons and ham sandwiches, my dog, my office, my city, Patty's desk, Jack's toys, my morning teacup. I recorded every part of my life, and each one was a jewel waiting to be seen. And then I discovered that it really didn't matter what the drawing was like, whether it was good. The drawing turned out to just be the ticket to the experience. In fact, I could just turn the page when I was done and leave the drawing behind like an old banana peel. It had done its job. And what mattered was the slow, careful gaze. Look, kids never say, "I can't draw." Give a kid a crayon and they just plunge in, fearless. They just play and they make and they walk away. They don't care what anyone else thinks. They don't judge. They just are. And I was coming back to that feeling myself as I filled in page after page in my sketchbook. The meaning that I'd been seeking for so long was right there in front of me. Everything in the world was revealing itself as special and unique and interesting and beautiful. And it was healing me of this horrible anxiety that I'd felt since Patty's accident. The loss of meaning, the fear of the future, that I'd been so worried for so long about what would be, that I'd been blind to what is, to how much I had to be grateful for every day. 20 years later, I use my superpower every day. Each time I sit down to draw, I connect with these blessings. I become part of them and their source, whatever that is. And that communion, not these ink lines on the page, that's the reason why I draw. To feel love for the world and to heal myself.